uchembere ndi ufulu. Freedom and choice.
Promoting sexual, reproductive health and rights.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Freedom and Choices. This is a reproductive health program produced by the Center for Solutions Journalism. In today's edition, my guests are Sheikh Dr. Imran, Shareef, Mahommed, and Reverend Nyekanyeka. My name is Jean Nicole Yona. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I just wanted to find out from you, what is the link between family planning or reproductive health and religion?
Okay, there is a link. In this context, we are talking about religion is concerned about the well-being of people, well-being in its totality. It's not just about the spiritual elements, but it's about the spiritual as well as the physical. That's why even when Christ came, from the Christian perspective, you find that Christ was preaching to the people, he was feeding the people, he was healing the people. So if you look into all this together, you will find that there is a link, because in terms of sexual reproductive health, family planning and like, we are trying to look into the elements of how can we save life, how can we be responsible, how can we, because it's not about, some people have talked about Genesis where God says, go and defeat the earth or multiply. But what is this multiplication? Is it a responsible multiplication or irresponsible multiplication? So when you come to this context, my thinking is that we want to look into issues of responsibilities. If I'm married and we want to have children with my wife, are we able to sit down and discuss how many children we want to have? At what rate, at what age should we have them, like the age difference and all that? Maybe I should stop there for now.
Yeah, of course, according to Islam is not just a religion, but it is defined as a way of life, which means that there is no department which is not found in Islam. You find that things to do with politics, things to do with the economy, and all the departments of life. The concern of Islam. So family planning is one of those social issues which Islam also has given regard to them. If we talk of family planning, for example, issues of breastfeeding or a mother suckling a baby, there is even a reference from the Quran. For example, we call it Surah Al-Baqarah, and chapter 2, verse 233. It clearly states that for those mothers who are breastfeeding, they should do that for the complete of 2 years. But that is optional, of course, that for those who want to complete the period of suckling. And this has a reference from the prophetic tradition, which says that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, prohibited the silent killing of children. And when he was asked to explain what he meant by silent killing, then he said, if one has a child, and then before a year, he also gets another child. So which means that you are now going to kill the first child, because it is not proper for the first child to suckle the breast of the mother, whose breasts are from now the second child. So in order to give a chance for the first child, so the best way is that there should be measures or ways to prohibit the coming up with a second child before the suckling is completed, and the completion of suckling according to Quran is 2 years. And that's why there were methods which were practiced during the time of the Prophet, and the current and modern methods, some of them can be justified, others not as per Islamic teaching. Thank you.
According to some research, there are reports that there are divisions between some religious leaders on the issues to do with family planning. Do you think the use of contraceptives is right?
I look for it from a perspective of the Reformed tradition, because I belong to the Reformed tradition. In the Reformed tradition, we don't have problems with the use of contraceptive. People in the church, in the Reformed tradition, have propagated for the natural use, the natural contraceptive, where women undergo a special training, sort of, where they should also look into their menstrual cycle and they study it, and then they come to an extent where they know exact time when they can get a pregnancy, and then they will refrain from sexual intercourse on those periods. That's a natural way. We accept that in the Reformed tradition, but we don't just say that is the only way that can be done, because we also know that God created people, and then He endowed into them a lot of wisdom and possibilities for the people to further make or create other things. That's why we recognize scientific discoveries. In recognizing scientific discoveries, we also recognize the medical profession, the medical scientific discoveries, whereby we accept our members of the church to go to hospital when they are ill. They can get a Panadol. In the same context, they can go to hospital to obtain contraceptives, because they want to be responsible mothers and fathers. Responsible in the sense like what Dr. Imran was saying here. You have a baby, he or she is 6 months. By design of nature, you may want to make love, and then you don't have contraceptives. What will happen? There will be another pregnancy. Is that being responsible? Are we thinking about the woman as the wife? And also, are we thinking about the child who is born? Are we also thinking about the child who is to be born? So in that context, from the perspective of the Reformed churches, we accept contraceptives, because we know that it is also a scientific discovery that will help us to control the birth rate.
In Islam, in terms of use of contraceptives, the law is very clear. We know that during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, the time that hadith which I cited before, people, in order to avoid coming up with a child before the first child has completed the period of suckling, they used to use what we call in Islam al-azl. And azl means coitus interruptus. That's the natural way. That was the method which was known right from the early days of Islam. Because the problem is that if one gives a woman gives a child today, after a month or so, if you meet her, the problem is that she's going to conceive anyway. So in order to avoid that, they used to use that method. Now with regard to the modern method of contraceptives, like the use of condoms, loop and whatever, some of these as per fatwa, Islamic juridical opinion which was given, is that we only differ in terms of understanding as to who to use contraceptives. Because in Islam, we can use the condoms, but that is restricted to married couples only. So it's not an allowance which is given even to unmarried people. And that is where sometimes, if you saw reluctance from the Muslim community, it was based on that, because you don't classify as to who should be allowed to use the condoms. So the Muslims who are married, if they plan in their marriage that for us to prevent the coming of the next pregnancy before time, let us use the condom. That is agreeable. And then the other contraceptives can only be accepted with the recommendation from a Muslim medical practitioner. If he gives his recommendation that you can better use the pills, use what, that can be accepted. But there are three methods of modern contraceptives which are haram, forbidden by the Muslims to use unless there are proper reasons. For example, sterilization and tubal ligation or vasectomy. And people know the terminologies of this, that a vasectomy is when a man himself prevents from being productive. And sterilization is now the removal of the uterus by the woman. And the tubal ligation is by either tying both sides and then cutting in the middle. So those three in Islam are prohibited. They can only be acceptable either if the Muslim medical practitioner has recommended that the way you are, if you are to give birth again, then your uterus is too small, it might get burst, and then you might die in the process. So that one can be recommended to apply either tubal ligation or the other thing if the problem is the uterus itself. But apart from that, then the law is very clear in Islam.
Okay, I just wanted you to clarify, let's say the religious groups have promoted the use of family planning. What are the advantages to the church, to a religion as a whole?
Promotion of that will be, we are going to be a responsible nation. That is number one, as I look at it. How am I saying we're going to be responsible? We'll have children by choice at the right time when you are ready. Because we don't have to have children like by an accident. Why should I call my kid an accident? Am I going to love that? When we're talking about this issue of family planning, we're not talking about a wholesale presentation to everybody. No, we are talking about the married group, because we know the youth who are in school, we've told them to abstain, wait for the right time. Now, looking into the family, we are looking at all angles, economic angles, spiritual angles. Because when a family has got like every year a child and then you have 5 kids, 5 years, are you considering the life of the man? Are you also considering the economic implications? Are you going to manage to send these kids to a better school? Because at the end of the day, we should prepare these kids to become productive citizens of the nation. How do we do that? We have to make sure that we have the right number, right size of the family, children by choice at the right time, and you are able to take care of them, and then you are able to monitor every aspect of their life, education, spiritual, and everything, and then you also know that they will graduate into productive citizens of the nation. So this element of sexual reproductive health, the issue of contraceptive, family planning is very important. It's very key when you're coming into even the economic growth of the nation. Because if we have every Jim and Jack will just have children as they want and then no control, I think even if you look at our population today, we are talking about 17, if not 18 million. And then we are talking about the size of the nation. We are comparing with Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia. And then we are looking at the job markets, the health facility, the education. Then we will find that sometimes we are putting a lot of strain into even the government to provide for us, when we could also help government to control some of these things by having children by choice at the right time.
In Islam, it's advocating for family planning. Yeah, it's allowed, but with some restrictions. Because let's talk of family planning per se. it is only allowed for Muslim couples to plan for the child spacing. So child spacing, in order to allow the right, to give the couple the right period to look after the first child. So the period provided as per Quranic verse that I mentioned is 2 years. That within the 2 years from the first child, so that one has to be maintained to make sure that that is okay. But to provide a blanket, I mean that no, every time if we don't have food, enough food or what to provide, then we should also practice family planning. We have a problem because there's a Quranic verse which says that if you are poor, God is going to provide for them as well as for you. So it's only that given period. And for those who have got a problem, those can be given a long-lasting also problem. They're accepting even issues to do with illegal tubal ligation, sterilization. Those issues can be accepted in Islam without limiting the period. But with this, no, the only period which is reasonable for the raising of their children. So we don't look at these other issues.
In case you're just tuning in, this is Freedom and Choices, a reproductive health program produced by the Center for Solutions Journalism. Today, my guests are Sheikh Imran, Mahommed, as well as Reverend Nyekanyeka. Welcome back. This is Freedom and Choices, a reproductive health produced by the Center for Solutions Journalism. And in today's edition, my guests are Sheikh Dr. Imran Mahommed and Reverend Nyekanyeka. Well, I just wanted to understand, there have been situations where women who have had their pregnancies terminated and regarded by religious leaders or maybe members from their churches where they come from as sinners. What's your take on that?
In Islam, when you talk of issues to do with abortion, there are Islamic teachings that regulate that. For example, pregnancy passes through 4 stages according to Islam, because there is a prophetic tradition which is saying that a fetus is constituted in the first 40 days. It becomes a nutfa, and that is a sperm. And then in another 40 days, it becomes a congregated blood. And then another 40 days, it becomes like a chewing lump. So after 120 days is when now the installment takes place. So once the Archangel Gabriel comes and then being installed, that person in Islam is regarded as a human being. After installment stage, that one is in a fully fledged form, and according to Quran, it's referred to another form of creation, not the first fetal creation. So the law here says, if you kill or you cause a woman to abort, then you will have to pay blood money. But that is not equal to a full human being, but it will be half blood money. So which means that there is a special recognition for the fetus after installment, because life according to Islam, it starts from 120 days. So before 120 days, if the pregnancy is complicated, and if it has been discovered that this woman is very small, the one who has conceived, and that upon delivery her uterus might burst, then Islam allows that woman to terminate and abort. But that is before 120 days, because after 120 days, So she will have to pay the penalty. And that is also after a recommendation from the Muslim medical practitioner to say that as it has to be terminated. And the same in Islam, that another abortions that can be allowed in Islam, those that occur through rape. If a woman is being raped, in Islam the law is that the pregnancy has to be aborted because of the shame that they would be born or carry with it. In Islam, he will be denied of inheritance, he will be denied of some privileges, even to be named after his father, because it will be like John, the son of his father, without necessarily taking the name, connecting the name to the father, because it happened by either way or through unwanted ways. The other way that Islam can allow to terminate pregnancy, issues to do with the children that could be born out of incest practices. So there, Islam says no, it's better to terminate. But this is now after seeing that it was real rape or abortion with real complications, without which Islam says there is no reason as to why a woman should terminate her pregnancy.
Right. I will be brief. But my colleague has explained a lot, which also almost similar to what we also believe in, and also even what is similar to what the medical practitioners also believe in, because of the 120 days that he's talking about is about 4 months, and that's also in the medical practice. You talk about termination of pregnancies are not harmful, maybe in that context. But then coming back to your question, if I'm a religious leader and I start despising people, castigating them for being sinners, then maybe I've forgotten my calling. Because God hates sin. That's a fact. But God loves sinners. I think you're getting me what I'm saying here. He hates sin. He doesn't want sin. And he doesn't want to be where there is sin. But he loves sinners. What does that mean? He still wants that person to move away from sin, to come back to him. So, if there is a person who has sinned, where should he go? Or where should she go? To me, I think he should go to church and repent. So if I close the door to say, I don't want these sinners here, who come into the church? Because the church is not a club of saints. Otherwise, it's a club of sinners. Because we are humans who have fallen short of God's glory. We have all sinned and we have fallen short of God's glory. That's why Jesus had to come. Because the Bible says Jesus came to seek those who were lost. So if somebody is in that context, I think the best thing we can do is show them love, explain to them, just as Jesus did. There was a woman who was brought to him caught in adultery. He says, condemn her, fine, stone her. And then people did not stone. And then he says, go and sin no more. So that's what I think. We need to look at the broader image. What is the mission of the church? Is it to send people to hell or to send people to Christ? If it is send people to Christ, it means you have to call those people, teach them so that they know the best ways of following God.
Okay, as we are drawing closer to the end of our program, there have been recommendations by most sectors for government to enact the new termination of pregnancy law. What's your reaction on that?
My quick reaction is first, I've seen the draft report, I've seen it. The first 2 pages, there are names of people who were in the committee that did the consultation. And I've seen Malakas of churches there signing that, meaning that as a church I was represented. And then what is in that report has been signed for by a person coming from Malakas of churches, which means they are in agreement with what is in that proposed bill. I've gone into it because I was privileged to attend a training where they were telling us what is in the bill, and I'm told the previous bill only allows a woman to procure an abortion when the life of the mother is in danger, to save the mother, nothing else. But the proposed one is talking about this one, which I've just mentioned, but also other 3 grounds, whereby now there are 4 grounds. The other ground is what he has also mentioned, which is also in the Quranic teaching, when the pregnancy is a result of rape. A girl is raped and is impregnated. What do you think about that? And another thing is about if it's a product of incest, but also if the viability of that product may not be consistent with the outside environment. Now, looking at this, I'm looking at the bill, which is still not like opening up abortion as a wholesale, whereby you can do it on economic issues, but it's still restrictive, only that it is bringing in other grounds, which are to me reasonable, very reasonable. Because I'll give you a personal opinion. If my daughter is raped, I will not allow that. I will not allow that. I will not allow a product of that rape. Because first it will disturb my daughter from going to school. Then I will seek medical help where I can get a self-abortion for her, so that she goes to school. Because she did not want to be raped in the first place, and she did not want to get pregnant at that point. So that's my personal thought, and I'm not ashamed of that.
Yeah, I went through the proposed termination of pregnancy bill, but and we were represented there. The Muslim committee was represented by Brother Imran, who is a legal practitioner, and most of the recommendations from the Muslim community, they were taken into board. What is a matter of concern is that it was not classified to say who should be accepted to have their pregnancies aborted, and also who should also use the contraceptives. That is the only problem, because it gives a blanket approval. But our views, of course, were taken on board. I saw them, and we wouldn't worry of the other things, because religion will do its best to teach its followers. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us at today's edition. Well, dear viewer, we've also come to the end of this week's edition of Freedom and Choices. This is a reproductive health program produced by the Center for Solutions Journalism. And my guests today were Sheikh Dr. Imran Mahommed, as well as Reverend Nyekanyeka. My name is Jill Likoyona. I just urge you to make a date with another edition of Freedom and Choices. Kamba kocho tsamimba wanseri mama mosa tetezeka ango nongeka ango tenga chimtengo cha chinambwa mahangala ango masafu zitsamba za msinganga kungodziva